Hello everyone, this is the Cool Geek, and this time I'm very excited about this video because this is the actual first video where we start writing the first code and get our hands little dirty on the coding part. So I've given a very simple instructions here to start writing the code, and I need you to do exactly how this is done just to be clear on what we are going to do, because we are going to develop on the same thing, and I need you to be very clear on the first steps that we do it, right? So what I need you to do is open the first open a new workbook. So that's Control N. Once I open the new workbook, I am going to now rename save the workbook as first project.xlsm. It's basically macro enabled, and then rename the sheet one as sample. So I'll just go back to this. I will rename this as sample and save this as what did I save it as? Uh, first project.xlsm. Save it as first project.xlsm. It's basically nothing but Excel macro enabled workbook. Make sure you do this step because it's very important that we do not lose our code if you save it in other formats. The other format, if you are using Excel 2003, you can store it in Excel 2003 workbook format. But as of now, since we are in 2007 and greater than 2007, we will save it as Excel enabled workbook. Now once you're done that, I have a sheet called sample and a workbook called first project. Now what I need to do is enter some values in a particular range, let's say A1 and B1. So A1 I enter 45 and here 55. Now I press Alt 11 to launch the VBA editor, and we are going to insert a new module as we discussed in the Visual Basic environment, right? So let's say Alt F11. I will close the current project and I will concentrate on the first project. Make sure this is a very important step. I insert a new module here, right? And just for the simplicity sake, I'm just going to maximize it. I will also just increase the size of the so that's much visible. Yep, that's good. So now what I'm going to do is there is already a set of codes that I have already written. I'm just going to explain you. So there are few parts that are here. One is a subroutine, right? And um, this is how I'm going to start the code, right? So I'm going to say sub first macro. So it is basically sub first macro. Now once that is done, I need what we intend to do here first. We need to discuss first. So basically what I'm trying to do is I have two numbers with me, 45 and 55. With the VBA code, what I'm trying to do is add both of the numbers and store the results in C1. So if you see my code, what I have written here is nothing but, if you just ignore these things, you'll see that C1 is equal to A1 plus B1, right? So the way we write it is a little different, but that's how we are going to write it. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the module. I'm going to say I'm going to add a simple comment that will indicate us what we are trying to do. I'm saying C1 is going to have the value of A1 plus B1 range. How I'm going to write it is, now I'm going to go back to the first project. I'm going to locate where A1 is. It's particularly in sample sheet A1, sample sheet B1. The output would be nothing but sample sheet C1. So there are different ways to write this. We are going to go with the most common way, or let's say for learning purpose, this is going to be the best way for writing it. I'm going to write sheets. I'm going to pick among all the sheets. I'm going to pick the sample sheet. Just remember what is within the bracket should be used within the bracket. So sample dot, and I'm going to use cell representation, or let's say for this example let's use range. In the next video we will cover how we are going to use cells also as well. So cell range C1 is equal to sheets sample dot range, that's going to be A1 plus sheets sample dot range B1. I'm running out of space, but this is the simple code that I have already mentioned here. So based on this, you will see that we get an output here. So what I'll do is I will simply minimize this window like this, and I'm also going to minimize this window like this. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm also closing these windows so that you can see exactly what's happening within this place. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to topple this over to the next line. You can leave it in one line as it is. Right. Okay, so what's happening here? What I'm saying is C1 is equal to A1 plus B1. So each and every time I have to mention this thing, which will make my task easier. Right. So how to run this? I press the run button. That should be here, or press F5. So I'm going to use F5 to run this code. And as you can see, the addition of the number is present here. So if I change my inputs here and here, and if I run my code, press F5, you see that the addition is taking place. Right, so this is a very simple basic example of how I am taking in inputs that are from A1 and B1, summing them up and storing them in a cell. So basically I'm getting an output within cell C1, taking inputs from A1 and B1, and the manipulation that is getting done is the addition. Right, so now let's make this a little bit simpler, and its usage is going to be very useful for us to write. So the second macro, basically I'm going to write the same code but in a little in a in a in a little a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something called as a with um, statement, and I'm going to say sheets sample. So basically what I'm trying to do is and end with. So what I'm trying to do is within the parameter, since these three are common for me, instead of writing them over and over again, what I'm going to do is I will say with this, and from now on whatever I write, that would be nothing but meaning it is the same. So I'm going to say dot range C1, sorry, within the quotes, C1 is equal to dot range A1 plus dot range B1. It's the same piece of code, but as you can see, what I've done is I've removed the extra thing from here and I've just put it common. So I basically write a with block to help me write much simpler code. So it's basically doing the same activity but in a little different format and much simpler to write also, so that it does not extend over and over again, repeat over and over again. Okay, so if I run this code, you will see that, let me just change this to some value, and if I run this code by pressing F5, you will see it's still doing the same functionality, but it is available to us in one window. So in the next video, we're going to discuss, we're going to take this VBA coding to a much better level and discuss few more codes associated with Excel VBA, and start writing basic and very simple codes, conceptual codes, to understand the full extent of Excel VBA. Thank you for watching this video.